Hello, everyone. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. I'm back with another movie review. No, I was just looking on social media here a little bit, and I noticed, people have been talking about, of course, a big thing right now is you have the Ted Bundy movie. Was it Shockingly Evil, something, Wickedly Evil, Vile? I always had trouble remembering that title. The Ted Bundy movie, the one with Zac Efron. And I guess apparently people are praising Efron's performance in the movie, and a lot of people are, I've noticed people getting on Facebook and stuff, and they're talking about like, well, why is it everybody's talking about what a great job Zac Efron did playing Ted Bundy, but nobody talks about, what a great job Charlize Theron did playing Aileen Wuornos. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about that. Now this was it 2003? Yeah, I believe it was 2000. Yeah, 2003. Okay. Now 2003, this movie Monster came out. The movie's written and directed by Patty Jenkins and stars Charlize Theron, easily one of the most beautiful women in the entire world, as Aileen Wuornos, who is a serial killer who, you know, I think it was in the 80s, and she lived in Florida. She was accused of killing several men. This is actually what she really looks like here. This is her real picture. Um, she was arrested for the murder of seven men. It took a while. They were trying to fight for her life, but she just ultimately she decided she didn't want to be, she didn't want to be saved. She didn't want wasting the taxpayers' money and stuff like that. She actually pushed for her appeals to be canceled so that they could go ahead and speed up her execution. Now, Aileen Wuornos, honestly, she was one of those serial killers. I have to admit, I've never really like too conflicted about serial killers, but Aileen Wuornos is one of the ones that I have been conflicted about because if you ever hear the story of Aileen Wuornos, on the one hand, it's all like, yeah, she did really terrible things, and you feel like she should have been, she deserved to be punished for what she did wrong. But at the same time, though, too, it's kind of like, well, you kind of got the feeling maybe she could have gone another way if she'd gotten help. See, if looking into the history of Eileen Wuornos, when she was a little girl, her father went away and he never came back. Her mother basically dumped her and her brother onto her parents for them to raise, the two kids. And growing up, that Eileen, she had problems and stuff like that. That she found out when she was a young girl. Apparently, she was having sex with her brother, and eventually she learned about what prostitution really was, and she learned, I think they said by the time she was like 10 or even 11 years old that she was already selling herself to the boys, in her school, and like, they were having sex with her, and then they would give her like their lunch money, or they would give her cigarettes, or they would give her whatever they had so they could have sex with her. But at the same time, though, too, it's like, well, first of all, Eileen, she's being really terribly treated by everybody. The kids that were having sex with her, they showed her absolutely no respect whatsoever, and they just treated her abominably. And rather than her grandparents, rather than help her out and kind of, maybe get her some therapy or something like that, you know, they just kind of like just kept they didn't help her. You kind of got the feeling she didn't really get help, or if they did, I don't know. But at the same time, though, too, when you hear about the story of Eileen Wuornos, you found out like all through her life, pretty much growing up, she always had this kind of 0 to 100, anger that she could just snap on you in a second, and so it's kind of weird. It's kind of hard to know all the facts of that story of what was going on. But yeah, so I think at like 15 or 16, she dropped out of school, and her grandfather basically kicked her out of the house. And so she went and, she sold herself for money and all this other kind of stuff. And, she eventually she worked her way down to Florida, where she, started having sex with these men, and she ended up, obviously she ended up killing 7 of these men. Now, she started dating, apparently she didn't like men too much, obviously, because of who her victims ended up becoming. But there was this woman named Tyria Moore that she ended up, this is her there, the real life lady. So they ended up having this love relationship affair, and apparently Eileen felt deeply, madly in love with her. But the thing was that Eileen was, apparently she was worried that she would never be able to hold on to Tyria, and if she couldn't like support her, or she couldn't like have money to buy her things or take her places or whatever else, she was scared she was going to end up losing her. And ultimately, that's kind of one of the things that led to her start killing these men so that she could rob them, so she could get their cars, she could get their money and everything else. Because apparently Eileen just could not really hold together work. She couldn't, I guess apparently she could never work a job or something like that. But so that ended up being a lot of the deal, that she ended up killing these men. And they separated. And ultimately, Tyria ended up becoming used to bait Eileen into admitting what she had done, and she got arrested. They took her in, and she confessed to everything. She confessed to the murders and stuff like that. She told them, Ty, she didn't do anything wrong, let her off the hook. I'm the one who killed them and everything else. But, like I said, going back to this conflicted thing. So it's like, on the one hand, it's absolutely horrible that she ended up, she ended up killing these men. But at the same time, though, it's like, well, you hear Eileen kind of like, well, she talked about that these men raped her and attacked her, and a lot of the time she killed these men in self-defense. And she had said at her trial that, like, yeah, the families of these men came along and condemned me for what I did and everything. But it's like, maybe these men weren't really what you thought they were. It's like, maybe you sit here and think that uh, you sit here and think that them, and maybe you didn't. And then this woman who claimed she was a Christian, and she came and she tried to help Eileen. And then you realize, like, just about everybody that Eileen ever knew in life sold her out or turned their back on her, or I mean, like in the case of Ty Moore, it's like ended up, like I said, they ended up using her as bait to trap Eileen. So it's kind of weird, but at the same time though too, it's like, well, you can't really feel too sorry for her, because she did kill these men. She knew what she was doing, she knew she was doing wrong, and she knew that um but at the same, like I said, it's kind of conflicting, because like so many, just about everybody she knew, stabbed her in the back. Everybody she knew at one point or another was gonna, turn traitor on her and stuff like that. So she's like one of the few serial killers I've ever felt conflicted about. I always kind of wondered, like, maybe not, maybe it never would have made a damn bit of difference. But at the same time, you kind of often wondered, like, would she have, I don't know, maybe would she have done better? But I don't know. Maybe we'll never know that. But anyway, though, so here about 2003, they decide they're going to make the movie, and it's going to come out that Charlize Theron is going to play Aileen Wuornos. And okay, now hang on, let me show you a real good picture of Charlize Theron here. No, okay, hang on. I'm sorry, I'll get it, I promise. But okay, so Charlize Theron here is, I mean, obviously she's easily one of the most beautiful women in the entire world. So maybe not exactly the first person you would have in mind when you think of somebody who's going to play Aileen Wuornos. But ultimately, Theron did a great job, and honestly, I can't praise her enough for the work she's done in this movie. She's also listed on the movie as a producer, so and when you hear of all the sacrifices she made to play that role, obviously this movie must have been a passion project for her, and she must have really, really wanted to try to tell this story and bring it to life. and do a good job. But oh man, yeah, I mean, just she did such a great job, and I can't commend her performance enough. I really can't. If you ever see, there are interviews with Eileen Wuornos. You can see, get on YouTube, get on, there's plenty of places you can see interviews with her. And then if you turn around, you watch the movie. I mean, Theron's performance is practically almost spot on. I mean, I don't think you could ever get anybody who could come as close to that as she did. Now, in season five, Hotel of American Horror Story, um, regular actress on that show, Lily Rabe, who I admit, she's my American Horror Story crush. You know, I know like some people, like some girls I know on social media, they say, like Evan Peters on American Horror Story is their favorite. Is their crush. He's their dream guy and all that stuff. If I had to pick who my favorite dream girl on American Horror Story would be, yeah, I'd probably have to say Lily Rabe, just especially in Coven when she played. I think the character's name was Misty Dawn or something. The Wiccan character that she played. I don't know. I just thought she was gorgeous. Anyway, though, but in season five, she did play Eileen Wuornos, and she did a fair job. Um, but I gotta be honest, Theron nailed this part. Nobody is going to do this better than what she did. Um, I mean, she even went to the point of, she gained weight for the role, and she changed her appearance, and she used makeup and appliances and everything else, and she really did everything she could to transform herself into Eileen Wuornos. And when you look at it, the seriously, I mean, the work and everything that she put into it is amazing. I mean, you can't really ask for anything better than that, you know. As a matter of fact, let me see here. I got here's a comparison of the two. See, all right, now here's the comparison of the two women. On the left here is Theron. Sorry about that. Come on, get off there. Okay, on the left is Theron as Eileen Wuornos, and on the right is the real Eileen Wuornos. And honestly, they look completely identical. I mean, they look. I think I don't know. Somebody could argue with me. I don't care. I think that Theron, she knocked it out of the ballpark with this performance. I give her nothing but praise and admiration for the sacrifices she made to play this role, and the mannerisms and the voice and everything else. I mean, Theron really did. She really, really honestly tried to really embody the true Eileen Wuornos. And like I said, just wow, I can't get over it. And I will say though that unfortunately, I just showed you a picture of what Ty Moore looked like, and I think we can honestly say with a straight face that yeah, Christina Ricci does not look like the real Ty Moore, obviously, but to see her like this, and just like see her portrayal of the character and stuff. And Theron does do a good job in the movie. I think she does. And in the film, um, she's the movie is trying to be more of a sympathetic portrayal of Eileen Wuornos, kind of trying to understand that well maybe what she said was true. That so I mean the movie, I imagine this movie probably did cause a little bit of controversy when it first came out. I imagine there were probably people out there who were like, "How dare you try to make you know a a moral or an immoral disgusting person like that? How dare you try to bring any kind of sympathy to her and stuff?" But see, that's the thing, it's like what really happened really, what really is only known between Eileen and her victims. And so it is definitely possible that some of the men, that's the thing, I'm not a prostitute, obviously, but, I'm sure that there are prostitutes out there. If you ask them, they will tell you stories. They will tell you about situations where they, got involved with men, and the men were just because a lot of men out there, they see prostitutes as nothing but human trash, and they see them as just objects, or just like I said, just garbage that needs to be thrown away. whatever. I mean, look at, Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. I mean, all his, pretty much all his victims were, prostitutes and stuff. And he talked about how he had no remorse for them. He had no mercy for them. They didn't mean anything. So it's like, it's not too hard to believe that maybe Eileen Wuornos might have been telling the truth a little bit. She still didn't need to kill them, but, maybe it is possible. Maybe, probably not all of the seven men, but, well, definitely one in the movie. There is one of her victims is played by Scott Wilson. Now, this was years before we came to know Scott Wilson as Herschel on The Walking Dead. So obviously, when they cast Scott Wilson in this movie, obviously the reason he was cast was because, he was best known for being in the classic true crime film In Cold Blood with Robert. Was it no? Robert Blake. I'm sorry. Damn, brain fart for a minute there. But the story is, but yeah, she does pick, he picks her up, and basically he's like this very religious person, and basically he's trying to tell her you don't have to do this and everything else. If I, I admit it's been a little bit since I've seen this movie, but if I remember correctly, like he wasn't even trying to solicit sex from her or anything like that, but she, he was telling her like, you don't have to do this, you don't have to kill, you make the choice and everything else. You can make a choice not to kill and everything else. And Theron she's just giving a balls out performance. She's knocking out of the ballpark and everything else. And you see her fighting that inner turmoil that she's going through, but she does ultimately, she does make the choice to murder, and that's what she does. She kills, but so yeah, so I mean, the story is a lot of it is about the story about the love affair between. Well, in this movie, Christina Ricci, instead of Ty Moore, her character name is Selby Wall in this movie, but it's the same thing. And basically, the story is these two meet, they fall in love, and Eileen becomes very enamored with her and loves her and wants to take care of her and wants to provide for her and everything else. Doesn't want to lose her and everything, so she's being a prostitute, she's turning tricks, but she's going out and she's murdering these men and stealing their stuff and everything else. And it is known that like Ty Moore, they think she knew more than what she really let on, but she did. They found out like, yeah, she knew at least about one of the murders and things like that. So she kind of knew that, but Ty Moore, I think she always maintained that, she knew that Eileen was prostituting, but she didn't know she was killing the men that she was selling herself to and things like that. So, and then one interesting note, though. Sorry, I know I'm kind of going a little all over the place with this here, but one interesting note, though, if you watch this movie, at the point where, okay, in real life story that Eileen was basically, she was, when they arrested her and everything else, she was picked up at a bar. They were having like a party for bikers and things like that, and that's where they snagged her. That's where they got her. Now, the funny thing is, it's like in the movie, the cops that arrest her are basically like undercover cops that dress up as bikers and everything else. And one thing to note is, if you don't spot it right away, one of the undercover cops is actually Kane Hodder, Jason from Friday the 13th, parts 7 through 10, and, Victor Crowley in the Hatchet movies and so on. Right now he's the star of that movie Death House. It's on Netflix and things like that. But yeah, actually one of the one of the cops that ends up arresting Aileen Wuornos in this movie is played by Kane Hodder. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing of note. But yeah, I mean, but I can't honestly. I mean, this movie is very well done. There are, of course, there are documentaries or interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, but I mean, when she went to prison, she did confess to the murders and all this other kind of stuff. And but people did see Aileen Wuornos. Unfortunately, never really did herself any favors when she was going to trial and stuff because, like I said, she had that kind of like 0 to 100 rage that she could just, one second she could be completely calm, but then the next second she could just be just ready to unleash. And so it's like it wasn't hard for people to see like, yeah, we could see where all this hate and anger and everything else that she's, display is coming from. So it's not hard to see how she ended up killing these guys. But you know, but still, I mean, I can't say enough good things about this. You know, if you're a true crime fanatic, you know, if you want to see a movie about Eileen Wuornos, this is pretty much the best one you could get. Um, yeah, I mean, you know, so I mean, yeah. Well, let's see here. Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. I think he did okay. Um, I think Mark Harmon was kind of like too good for the role. Um, I almost would say that about Charlize Theron in this movie. You know, I've said that before in other movie reviews where I said, you know, like there have been actors that like when they get cast to play a serial killer, it's like they're too good for that role. And like the first one that definitely comes to mind is when Farrah Fawcett got cast to play Diane Downs in the movie Small Sacrifices. Now, Farrah Fawcett was easily one of the most gorgeous women in the world. I mean, you know, in the 70s, she had one of the most famous posters in the world and all this. She was on Charlie's Angels and all this stuff. And then, you know, to cast her to play Diane Downs, and if you saw the real Diane Downs, you know, she looked nothing like Farrah Fawcett. Or, you know, like Mark Harmon, you know, you kind of think he did a great performance in Deliver a Stranger, but at the same time, you're kind of like, he was kind of a little too good for that role. Same thing with like Brian Dennehy uh, when he was cast to play, yeah, John Wayne Gacy in To Catch a Killer. You know, because John Wayne Gacy was this short, pudgy, you know, just kind of, you know, and Brian Dennehy's like big and scary and intimidating. He's built like a bull and all this other kind of stuff. So I almost could say that about Theron playing this character, but when you see the level of commitment she put into this role and the work she did for it, I can't praise her enough. You know, she did such a great job, you know, to completely transform herself, to really put in the work, really put in the effort. I can't praise her enough. And this movie is a good movie. And yeah, I don't think you're really going to get much better movies than this. They did do a TV movie years back, and I believe it was Gene Smart who played Eileen Wuornos. But in that TV movie, you know, well, that movie is kind of more about the investigation. You know, like the detectives trying to find out, you know, who is killing these men and closing in on Eileen Wuornos and stuff like that. But you know, Jean Smart, like she didn't go to the level of commitment that Theron did, you know, for the part. But so normally I would say that, but it's like I can't say enough good things about Charlize Theron. She really did. So but yeah, I mean, if you're, you know, if you're a true crime fan, if you're interested in anything about Eileen Wuornos, you know, if you have, you know, an enthusiasm for true crime films, movies about serial killers and stuff like that. Now, obviously, you know, this is more of a fictionalized account. Obviously, not everything in this movie is going to be 100% accurate, but still, it's a good film. You know, like I keep saying, Theron, she just blows it away. You know, easily one of the best performances ever. Christina Ricci, she does a great job too. Yeah, I mean, this movie, there really is no weak links in this movie. And Patty Jenkins did a great job writing and directing. And like I said, you know, and that's one of the things though too is like I've said it before is like Eileen Wuornos. I've always found to me she's one of the more fascinating, you know, because like I said, you know, yeah, she did horrible things and she deserved the sentence that she got for doing those horrible things. But then, you know, at the same time, like later on, apparently she became a born again Christ, or no, she just became a Christian and stuff like that, and she gave herself to God. So, but you can't help but wonder if maybe like, you know, if people had been willing to reach out to her in her childhood, or maybe people did, and she refused the help. There's no way of knowing. But so anyway, so yeah, we talked about Monster, and I highly recommend this movie. And you know, as far as like the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie goes, it's like it's okay. I mean, I thought it was fair for what it was. I mean, they, you know, that movie doesn't get too into any of the gruesome details or any of that kind of stuff, but you know, you got to understand that movie is, you know, based off of a book written by the lady who had dated Ted Bundy for years, so she never saw any of this horrible stuff. So her book was more about their relationship and what she saw of him, rather than what his victims ended up seeing of him. But yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, check this movie out. It's really good. It's fantastic, and you know, Charlize Theron, you know, it's like I think that just makes her, you know, like I said, you know, it's like hang on one second, I got one less. There's a picture of her in here somewhere. So yeah. But it's like, when you can see her transforming from this into Aileen Wuornos and, just the work and everything else she does, it just makes her even more appealing than she already is. So, and yeah, I hope, I'm always happy to see her get more work. She deserves it. And she definitely deserved that Oscar. She earned it. So, anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. We talked about Monster, and so the next time somebody says, oh, they talk about Zac Efron, that Ted Bundy movie, but nobody talks about Charlize Theron as Aileen Wuornos, I'll be like, I did. So that's going to do it. If anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the video. I know this went on, quite a bit. If you did like the video, please like and subscribe. I do movie reviews. I do, doing shelf by shelf of my movie library. I do, haul videos, things like that. Planning on a couple of announcements coming up here pretty soon, but yeah, that's it. So again, thank you very much for listening to me, and again, I hope I entertained you and you enjoyed my video. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. Thank you very much. Have a good night.